Okay, you've spoken a lot about a special game and a very emotional presentation. What is that game and what is that special?
Yeah, I've been speaking about Fable 3. You know, it's the third outing of the Fable franchise. And I just said to everybody in the audience, look, we want to make a very big, bold step. Lionhead's all about innovation. It's all about, questioning the foundation stones of what you think of as being, cast in stone. And we need to question some of those. We need to come up with a dramatic story that no one has ever played before. And we need to come up with game mechanics that no one's ever touched before. Because if we don't, then it'll just be another Fable. And that's not what Lionhead does. It doesn't do, it doesn't make small steps, it makes big steps.
Yeah. What does the player have to expect? What are the new techniques? How did you realize this drama?
Well, the main thing that people have to expect is, firstly, when you played Fable, you were a hero. You were a hero out in the streets.
Nice start.
Which is a nice start, but this time I want you to feel powerful. It's all about feeling power. What would it be like? And that's not just a male thing, it's a female thing as well. Female gamers, they say, look, if I was in control, if I could control everything, I wouldn't have all this, poverty and suffering and, I'm gonna save Albion, I'm gonna change it and make it more beautiful. You can do all those things if you are a king. You can't do it if you're just a hero. So half of this game is all about being a king or a queen. Where other games stop. Mo, you see the crazy thing about this industry, so many times I've played so many games where I've just sat there and battled for 20 hours to be, to win the crown or to be the hero, and then the game ends. With Fable 2, with Fable 3, what we're going to do, for half the game it's all about becoming a rebel and joining the land together and, storming this tyrant and taking over power. And then the game doesn't end. No, the game continues but changes pace completely, because then it's all about being a ruler. Then it's all about finding out that rule and power isn't just as simple as saying, I'm going to feed you, I'm going to, save everybody. Yeah. There's other problems involved. And, there's a saying that really inspires me. And it applies to a lot of people in the world today, and that saying is, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. I find that fascinating, and giving you a glimpse to that to the player is fascinating.
That would have been my next questions. What does the power of a father that decides about his family difference a king, and How did you realize that?
Yeah, I think that's interesting, you see, because, and it's interesting you should mention about, how when you have a family and the power that you have over the children and the family you've got, how does that influence your kingdom? And your king, well, here's the interesting thing, you still have a family. You still have children, and how much attention you're going to pay to them, how much of your sort of life is involved with them, how much is involved with the people that you knew in the past and your friends that got you to rule. I think that's another choice, and it all becomes very interesting because, for me, every day is, and in my life there is a choice about, family, and there's a choice about, lots of things in the world.
How much is the powerful person, maybe a queen, connected to her folk, to her people?
Yeah, this is interesting. The connection to the people's like, because this is one of another fantastic. Sometimes you're so lucky when you develop to find a pot of gold, which is so valuable, and we found this pot of gold, and what we realized is, we will let you choose how much time you spend with your people. And some people will lock themselves away in their huge castle and they'll very rarely visit the people anymore. Some people will disguise themselves and go out. This is what Queen Victoria did in England. She used to, once a year, she used to disguise herself and go out with the people. Why wouldn't allow you to? Some people want to feel, you know, the appreciation of the crowd, and, you know, to have a royal procession and walk, you know, with heads held high. Some people want to lead with the front. All those choices we want to give you.
So if I'm a very emotional queen, I can have as much contact as I want to. Can I touch the people? Is it visible?
Yes, you can absolutely. You can touch the people. You can do some charming things. Like if you see, I really want this. I mean, I'm not telling you this is in the game, but this is a sort of inspiration that's in the game, that's been inspired us. Imagine you're a queen, and imagine that you've decided that you're going to walk out into the slums of your city called Bowerstone. What would it feel like to be able to grab the hands of an orphan and take them back to your castle? To show them, you know, all the wonderful splendor of your castle and maybe let them live there. Why shouldn't you be able to do that as a ruler? Because that feeling of power just fascinates me. Power is not only about, you know, saying we're going to go to war or I'm going to use this money for this. It's about how much of yourself you still give to the people that you've got. And keeping the people on your side, what history has shown again and again and again, is if you ignore the people, if you think they don't exist, you're going to have problems.
Yeah. So I can make promises, I can decide, do I want them to be kept?
Yes.
And how can I judge about the people?
The other thing is that, one is that a lot of the time when you're not powerful, it's all about the promises that you make to get people to follow you. You know, and that's very interesting. And we've heard this from politicians and historic figures again and again and again. And we as people just believe them every time like robots. And then they get into power and they just don't deliver on their promises. And, you know, people like Obama, you know, people created this massive shopping list of promises. Oh, he's going to do this and he's going to do that and he's going to save this and he's going to save that. Almost undeliverable. And if you notice, as soon as Obama got into power, he started saying, I'm not going to be able to do all these things. Yeah. And again, you are going to feel that in Fable 3. You're going to feel the ability to promise things, and then are you going to be able to deliver on those promises when you become king? The last thing is something called judgments. One of the things about power is being able to judge things. I think that this is right and this is wrong. And being at any time during those judgments, being able to say, right, I've decided, you know, you are ruler after all. Like Caesar, you can say, that's just, you know, let's kill that person, let's save that person, let's give them money, let's make them innocent, let's make them, you know, someone powerful in my court. Being able to have the freedom to decide the fate of a single person or the fate of your entire nation is really important.
Yeah. So I see that there is a lot of background at Fable 3, and there are a lot of current affairs that you worked with in your mind as the designer as you made Fable 3. Why? And is it that reachable for the player?
What do you mean by reachable?
Can he imagine what kind of minds are standing behind Fable 3?
I still don't quite understand the question.
It's difficult to explain. What I want to say is the player only seeing Fable 3 as the game in the future, or is he still connecting the current affairs with what he is doing as the man with power?
You know, I think the interesting thing is that if when you play a game or read a book or watch a film, it speaks to you about the world today, I think that's a fantastic thing. And I'd love people to play Fable 3 and say, you know what? You know, maybe I appreciate politicians a bit more, or maybe I don't appreciate them anymore. And, You know, why is this any, you know, even this is in a fantasy world and it's in a place called Albion, it's still a system which kind of exists. And, you know, the whole of our civilization is built upon what Fable is talking about. It's built upon leaders and people with vision, taking us as the people and the populace into places that we either want to go or don't want to go. And I want people in Fable 3 to feel that, and to feel that sense of power and to feel that sense of relevance.
That's a nice aim. So I thank you for the interview. And
you.
here we finish.
Thanks.
Okay.
Good questions.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. Well, I don't have much.